Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mediation and Beyond YouTube channel. I'm so excited today. I have one of my probably most favorite people. It's a great dad. His name's Michael Daniels. He's the father of two amazing kids. He's been a leader in the home building industry for over 20 years, and he kind of pivoted, and he'll share with us that story, but he pivoted and created an app called FAYR, F-A-Y-R, that's for divorcing families in transition and helping to make that a smoother journey for everybody. So Michael, welcome. Thanks for stopping by today. I really appreciate it.
Well, Colleen, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you.
Absolutely. And so one of my, with my work, obviously a mediator and a trained therapist, I am really interested in this app that you created because there's a lot of things out there for divorcing families that I think can be problematic. And so it's nice to see something else on the market. Can you share with us, why you created it to begin with and what FAYR stands for and kind of what the app is about?
No, absolutely. So FAYR, of course, we all want to be fair, right? I think that's a given. I don't find very many people who try to argue with that, even if they want to. But at the same time, it's also an acronym. It's FAYR, which stands for Family Advocacy is Your Responsibility. And I focus on the word responsibility because if you break that down, we are all response-able. We have the ability to choose our response to any given situation. And so when I came to that, you stop being reactive and you start saying, I'm going to choose to communicate better. I'm going to choose to, rather than, I saw this meme the other day that said, the moment you delete the paragraph you just wrote to your ex and just write, okay, that's the moment of growth. And so basically what that means is I want to communicate constructively. I just came to a point in my life where I said, all of this going back and forth and trying to be right is not effective. So my focus was, let's just try to communicate on the core issues without things escalating into costly, contentious court motions, because none of that stuff serves us nor our kids. So I went through a really tumultuous divorce. It's a 2-year process. And during those 2 years, you're being told by your attorney, who's preparing, obviously, they're very litigation minded, and they're telling you to document everything on a daily basis. So every night I had these 4 logs, and one log was our communication. But the problem was I was told to communicate only in email because text messages are not admissible in court. So I would write emails and then she'd respond in text messages. And so I'd have to keep on the log when I wrote the email and there's the text message. And then I had to buy this one app that just would move all the messages over and I could print them out. That cost $20. But so one log was for communication, was just for messaging back and forth. The next log was for expenses. I had to save all these receipts and itemize, these involuntary expenses that we're expected to share. And then I had another one for time sharing, when I picked them up, when I dropped them off, any notes that were going on between us during those times. And then the last one I kept was for I would document. I try to time, date, and stamp document when I showed up places, because this stuff oftentimes escalated. You're always being accused of not being places on time. So I would document pictures that I took at certain dates and times. And the point is when you're living in this every day, reconciling these daily logs, it's just a real life suck. It just drains you emotionally. You're not able to be very present in your kids' lives. And that was a real point of stress for me. I didn't like who I was. And this went on for many years. And then finally, you can go to court and you can have all of this documentation with you, and the other party can just flat out say, well, he made that up. And you know what? She's right. I could make it up. That's a very, very good point. Somebody could just make a lot of this stuff up. I mean, clearly the receipts are there and they are what they are. But when it comes to time sharing schedules, as far as how much time I had the kids and when I picked them up and dropped them off, I mean, that's just all hearsay. And a lot of times the motions for modification for child support or whatever, these motions rely heavily on the record. If both parents come in saying I have 60% of the time, well, how's a judge to determine who owes who what, So anyway, at age, whatever, about 4 years ago, I guess it was, I decided to reinvent myself, and I just wanted to create a really, really solid app base, because we're all used to using apps now. I mean, apps We use them collaboratively, professionally, socially. And so I just wanted to make really, truly the best one designed specifically for this, this kind of relationship in our lives. And so, yeah, I spent a year in development. And I didn't know anything about apps. I come from the home building world, like you mentioned earlier. And yeah, being from the home building world, the one thing I did take away that has benefited me in the app world is that cheap is expensive. Anytime I've ever hired some jackleg contractor, I've always ended up paying somebody else to come back and do it again. I'm pretty sure a lot of people can relate to that. Cheap is expensive. So I went out and I researched and found a company in Silicon Valley that had just finished Citibank's app. And so I said, well, these guys got to know what they're doing. So I hired them, and thank goodness I did, because I've since learned that the app world is very scary. The technology world, not a lot of great ideas, but a lot of cutthroat things. Heck, even Mark Zuckerberg, had to pay whatever, a couple $1 billion to the people that he took Facebook from. So there's a lot of cutthroat stuff going on in the tech space. So glad that I did hire my and I choose to document my location, my co-parent instantly gets a push notification to her phone saying I'm there. So this just really de-escalates things, because I can't tell you how many times that you get accused of things and it's hard to reconstruct an audit trail, 6 months down the road when you're all of a sudden in a court motion. But I didn't want this to just be focused either just on high conflict. I just really wanted to create something that we just want to use, something that's very easy and actually de-stresses things. One of the problems with one of the legacy brands that had already been out available, which I had used, I found that a lot of its features were so focused on high conflict. So like if I logged an expense, I could log in thousands of dollars worth of expenses. But if my co-parent doesn't go in there and approve each single expense, then it doesn't go on as a matter of record. Well, this just causes more inflammatory problems.
Absolutely.
So with FAYR, as long as you write in what you paid for, what it cost, and then you categorize it as one of these involuntary expenses, be it school, extracurricular, medical, uncovered medical, the vision, whatever. There's a whole bunch of these categories. Once you categorize it as one of those, then that's it. It's a matter of record. Your co-parent can see it and they can flag it if they want, but it doesn't hold up the process. It doesn't bog people down. So that's just one of many examples, because I literally read through.
Michael, do both parties have to participate in it?
No, they don't. I mean, it's better that they do, because clearly you're making lines of communication better, but no, they don't have to. You can document on your own with it if you choose to. And that's really helpful. I mean, because honestly, every time you document, you send the invite to your co-parent. If they choose not to accept the invite, if you're ever in court one day, and I've talked to judges about this, and one party is diligent in using it and the other party is not, the judge looks at you and says, you mean to tell me that this one parent over here has done everything to be as transparent and conflict de-escalating as possible, and you refuse to? So you're going to win by default. So that's the advantage of it. So if I started with 4 key features, and since then we just really listened to our user base, and our users tell us things, and we've added a lot of bevy of other things that I think most people find very helpful.
So when you were creating it, did you have a lot of input from other people other than on the tech side?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I talked to attorneys. I wanted to make it work for everyone. Attorneys, listen, I used to think that attorneys wouldn't want this sort of app, because clearly they like problems. They like when people fight because they get paid more, right? But that's not necessarily true. Attorneys don't like losing cases either. And most parents lose cases not because they're bad parents, but because they're bad documenters. And so this app makes it very easy just to, track it, log it, and forget it. You can just put it in there and don't worry about it. It's going to be there whenever you need it. It just makes life so simple. You don't have to keep, I used to have paper receipts. I'd be like, okay, put that one in the side dash of my door. This other one came from the doctor, and it's like a full sheet of paper. I put that in my glove compartment, and one went in my wallet, my pocket. And you just have to remember this stuff at the end of the day. And it's just a nasty way to finish your day, putting all this stuff together. So with FAYR, just click, 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 and it logs everything.
Do you notice from your data research that more men use it, more women use it, or is it kind of
women?
Women?
women, I tell you, they're much more. I think women in general are more detailed people.
Mm.
and they're yeah, you know what, they are the driving force for our growth. But you know what, men come on board too. You know, they send the invites out, and their co-parents get on board, and it works really well. You know, we're actually doing a Facebook Live later on today with Michelle Dempsey, who's you know, she's got a huge following, and it's funny because she's been already using FAYR for a year and a half, and we just got connected, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm geeking out, like I've been using this with my ex-husband, it's really helped us a lot. So that felt really good.
Nice. So do you feel that the men just don't know about it, would you say? Because, you know, social media is definitely, I haven't done my data research, but I'm thinking social media is probably more female-based than male-based. So do you think it's just unawareness?
I think I think men don't look for these things as much. I think men bury their problems more. I don't think they face them as much. I just don't think it's even in their radar. Whereas I think women are more likely to get a part of certain groups, and they hear about it in certain different circles. And so, and I think women really legitimately like communication. I think women like to communicate amongst each other, and you know, I think that's just innate in them.
Well,
More
it's
so
also
than, I'm not trying
interesting
to be
that you
sexist
say
or
that,
something,
because it's interesting that you say that, because the number one, there was a study that just came out, forget who did it, someone sent it to me yesterday, that the number one reason marriages are breaking down really isn't like we always thought, which was money. It's really communication. So you provide a service for couples when obviously they might have stayed together. Were they able to communicate? But obviously, since they're choosing to divorce, you still provide a great service then for people who otherwise can't communicate via email or via text or phone calls, right? I mean, you can log communication, like I'm going to here's what's going on extracurricular. That's all part of that too. Is that, oh, we got it? Are you back?
Okay, I got better back now. Yeah, no, with FAYR, the in-app messaging tool, I mean, it's super easy. Its user interface is super easy, intuitive to navigate. But you just click on it, and just like you would be in any other app that you use, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. And then as everything you're messaging back and forth cannot be manipulated. So it has all of the admissibility of emails, but all of the ease of text messaging. And we've actually designed it to work like WhatsApp's messaging feature, so that, you know, if I want to go way back and respond to a conversation that we were having, you know, last week, I can go up there and click on that message, and now I'm you know, basically responding to that message. And so it keeps it all nice and tidy, so that when you choose to export it, let's say you need to, this will save you thousands and thousands of dollars in paralegal fees. When you think about what paralegals, they charge you between $80 to $120 an hour to put all of the stuff in a court-ready format. With FAYR, just export it all. And it's like, wow, it's all there. It makes it super clean. It saves you a lot of money. So anyway, that was a big focus of mine. I wanted to make it simple, so that if a judge is reading through it, they quickly get what's going on. It's not difficult for them to navigate.
Okay, so that's good. It has that history component then to it too, right? So saves for them to see what the patterns of communication are, what patterns of behavior are, so a judge can go back and kind of relook at that.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, a judge can go back there, and you can export any sort of date range that you want as well. So when you export, you can export every single receipt, everything logged, right, you know, since inception, year to date, or any particular month you want, and have it instantly sent to your attorney or to a judge. We even have a professional portal that's free, that your attorney or whomever may be on your case, a guardian or somebody, can go in there. Pending your approval, you have to say, yes, this person has requested to connect with you. And you can say, even that's even if let's say your co-parent's attorney wants to get on. Well, both parties have to be aware that the co-parent's attorney is on. It's not like they can be spying on you or anything like that. So they're able to log in, and they can get this stuff themselves too, if you're at that point. But clearly, not everybody's at that point.
And what are the fees on it?
Okay, so we have we're subscription-based model, and the reason most people have a problem paying for apps these days. But you got to understand, in the app world, if they're not selling you a product, you are the product. They are selling your private information. Everything you put in there is being sent out to third parties to monetize. And they can generally, on a good rule of thumb, is they can monetize basically 50 cents per user per month. So That's their model. Our model, we want to protect all of your private information. It's very important that a lot of this stuff that gets put around, and you have information about your kids in there. There's a file vault that you could put vital documents in for your kids and these sort of things. We don't share any of that stuff. So it comes out to either $9.99 a month, $99 a year, or $249 for 3 years. So there are 3 options. But actually, we have a special discount code for your listeners, which is it's Colleen O, and then you'll get a 20% discount on any one of those. So it comes out to $7.99 a month or $79 a year.
It's like 2 cups of coffee.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's 2 cups of coffee for a lot of peace of mind. And so I really want to just make a better app at a better price. And so we are the best priced in the industry of anybody who doesn't sell data. I mean, there are free apps out there, but they're selling your information.
And where do you see, have you seen, obviously you do your app, but you obviously look at some trends in the divorce world and whatnot. Do you, and I like to ask people, like, do you see divorce kind of becoming kinder, people working together more? Like, do you see it shifting in that direction at all, or what's your take?
I think we're going to get there, because this whole world of coaches, that's a beautiful thing that's happening, and I really want to get that message out there, because I think what rolls off people's minds when they think about divorce is, I got to hire the most cutthroat shark attorney I can find. I mean, you are starting out on a really I mean, you're a hammer in search of a nail, the biggest hammer. Like, why don't you try going to a coach first? Try to keep this thing at a minimal cost, because most divorces cost an average of, it's approaching 30 grand. And that is most of the time about a third of what your net income is. I mean, like, net worth is, I'm sorry. Like, the divorces are the attorney's going to end up taking a third of your family's net worth, this is terrible. This is really terrible. And it's a lot of times it's because people are not thinking, how can I resolve this amicably? But I think that's changing, because with these new fields coming out, people are becoming more aware of this. But the stats are pretty ugly. I mean, it costs $112 billion a year to run the family courts nationwide. There's over $200 billion a year in court-ordered child support. This doesn't include settle-up money. This doesn't include alimony payments. So this is a huge industry. There's close to 60 million co-parents in America today. There are 40% of children are being born out of wedlock, with the millennial generation, I should say. Actually, 40% of children born to millennials are born out of wedlock. So that automatically puts you at a higher risk of not being in the same home, meaning that you're going to be co-parenting. So and so those relationships have to go through the courts to establish time-sharing schedules. So I think the studies show that 2-home situations are going to become more and more likely, but how we handle them, I think, is on a trend to get better, if that makes sense. I think people will start co-parenting better. Yeah,
and I think actually COVID, for as much as the horribleness of it, has kind of forced people to kind of work together too, even in the transition of the children during the co-parenting, realizing that if you're going to litigate, that it's going to take far longer than if you chose to do a mediation or a collaborative divorce, that's a better route to go. That and I was saying this the other day, it's like you're co-parent when you're married. Co-parenting isn't just for when you're divorced. It's like, it's, just, you're doing the same thing, hopefully, just in 2 different homes. And
2 different homes,
right. And the more you can kind of structure it so that you're on the same page, obviously consistency for children is like vital. So I love that your app kind of gives people a platform from which to start with some structure. I would say, like, those like FAYR and parenting plans give people legs for when they're just starting out, and hopefully they won't. Hopefully, that FAYR, like your app, would just become, it increases the normalcy of a lifestyle, a transition to a new lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that you nailed it right there, and it takes the emotion out of it when you don't have to jump on a phone, or when you know that what I'm writing, hey man, this may be read out in front of a judge one day. It makes you a little more conscious of, let me be a little more high level here. Let me take the high road, because let's face it, like the 2 biggest, pain points are romance and finance, right? So, this is something, and I mean, literally, this is the only area of life that you can be in a civil suit with another person, and you have to go on communicating with them for years to come. And it's just so tempting. It's like, it's part of like our natural impulsive human behavior to try to get back at the person, right? But I always tell people it's analogous to when a poisonous snake bites you. I was an Eagle Scout. So they used to teach us this stuff. They said, don't chase the snake. You got to lower your heart level, because if you chase the snake, that's what drives the venom to your heart and kills you. They say that it's literally let it go.
That's a great analogy.
It really is, and I never forgot that as a scout. I was actually, because I was up in Philmont, New Mexico. I'm actually the youngest person in history to ever hike the 135-mile trail of Philmont. I had to get a special waiver. And
wow.
Anyways, they gave me a waiver, but I'll never forget training, because they said there's a lot of mountain rattlesnakes and this sort of things. And if you get bitten, do not try to retaliate, against the snake or run, even for that matter. Just get your heart rate low. So the point is don't chase the snake. Don't chase the anger. It drives the venom to the heart.
Yeah, and you said earlier on, everyone can choose how they respond, right? So don't be so reactive and impulsive.
Right.
Like I always say, take a breath. Put it to the side for a minute, because feelings and emotions don't really produce solutions in divorce.
No,
they just
at all. No. And people make it, because I go to court and watch cases all the time now. I just want to know what judges, what they want. So I'll just sometimes just go down there and just sit in a courtroom and see. And it's like, people really think that this well-articulated emotional plight is going to win the day. It does not win the day. If anything, like when you start doing these emotional like outbursts, like this stuff just makes them say, okay, this one is not in control. And so the best thing you can do is just be very businesslike about it. Like you just be effective. Don't be right. Because maybe you are right. And because everybody feels like they're right? I think I'm right all the time. But it's like, but you're not. That's you thinking you're right. Why don't you just worry about, okay, how can it be effective right now? What's most effective is to calm tensions down. That's it.
Yeah. Dr. Phil uses this term, right, R-I-G-H-T, right fighter, that people get so stuck in being right.
Yeah.
That one, you typically forget what you're even fighting about. And then you don't hear the other person whatsoever. Like there's no lens for like, oh, maybe we could do this a different way. Oh, I could be open to that. Like they get just stuck in their position and nothing gets solved from that platform.
Yeah. One of my favorite books is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And Stephen R. Covey calls that paradigm paralysis. And it's true. You get stuck with this paradigm and it's paralyzing, and it really, really will end up, when you think about the domino effect of going down those roads, it'll affect you in every aspect of your life. And so, look, you just be smart and be child focused, and just say to yourself, look, any day that goes by that's a good day for my kids, that's a good day for me. Happy, chalk it up, done,
Absolutely. And so where can people find FAYR? So we're
Oh yeah, sure. So our social handles are at BeFayr, BeFayr. But you go to FAYR.com and you can read more about the app, and then they'll have links there to go sign up, and it'll send you to actually BeFayr.com, and you can sign up there. And if you just input the code Colleen O, you'll get a 20% discount. And you can reach me at michael@fayr.com. I love when people reach out to me and tell me, hey, Mike, this is my problem. What do you think we could do to make this thing better? Not because I really want to continue making this app as just high functioning for everyone's co-parenting needs.
Yeah, and in this day and age, simplicity is everything, because everything can sometimes feel overwhelming. And so the way you described it, and I hope people go and check it out on FAYR.com, but it sounds like it just simplifies the chaos and the overwhelm.
100%. Right? Yeah. And like my background, of course, in designing and building high-end luxury homes, like I'm very visual. So actually, when you actually look at the interface, I'm very proud of it. I really had a lot to do with it. It's, soft color tones, casual fonts, rounded edges on everything. I mean, it was literally designed to be psychologically conflict diffusing
nice.
To its users. And believe it or not, that stuff actually affects you. I don't know if people really.
Oh, I hope my business cards have rounded edges. Like it
yeah,
like
all of that.
It does. We
does.
absorb everything. And so
Yeah,
that's good because the coloring and all that really matter.
it does.
We may not think it does, but psychologically it does. Well, thank you, Michael. I
Thank you,
really
Colleen.
appreciate this. So you can find Michael at FAYR, FAYR.com, or just go to FAYR.com. If you want to get the discount, it's Colleen, COLLEENO, and you can get a 20% discount. So Michael, thanks again. I'm sure I'll have you back on as we hear more about what you're up to. So thank you so much.
Colleen.
All
Thank
right,
you.
I'll keep
Bye-bye.
you on. Bye.